Hello, and welcome to the Table Football Podcast, a podcast set up to discuss both football and Round Table. Round Table and Ladies Circle are national organisations which aim to raise money for local charities, support their local communities, and promote lifelong friendships which span across towns, counties, and nations. If you are between the ages of 18 and 45, are looking to do more with your spare time, enhance your social life, and do some positive things for your local community, Round Table and Ladies Circle are always looking for new members. Visit our website at www.roundtable.co.uk for more information.
So welcome football fanatics to another electrifying episode of the Table Football Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tris, and joining me at the table is my ever knowledgeable co-host, Shepp. So as we dive into episode 6, the stakes couldn't be higher. So we find ourselves amidst the nail-biting climax of the football season where every goal and every tackle could determine the fate of champions and the demise of the relegation fodder. And right now, as we speak and actually record this episode, a pivotal match unfolds in the heart of the Premier League title race with Shepp's beloved Arsenal playing Chelsea, which I'm pretty sure we're going to get into at some point when something actually happens in that game. So buckle up as we dissect the drama and the triumphs and the heartbreaks of this beautiful game. So without further ado, let's kick off this thrilling episode of the Table Podcast. So Shepp, how are you doing, mate? How are you doing? How are your nerves holding out?
I'm good. I'm very nervous. As is every 4 days this happens now. It's like the season's almost over, but not quite over. And so I feel like we're one loss away from it all being done and dusted. So I kind of don't want that to happen. So
yeah, we're getting to the business end now, aren't we? And I don't know. I think you're brave actually recording this at the time when this is quite an important game for your team. So yeah, I think you're pretty brave at the moment to be going through that. I'm looking forward to the facial expressions as things happen.
Yeah. Blame the rescheduling. I think this game was supposed to happen at the weekend, but I think because somehow Chelsea made it into the FA Cup semi-final, that had to be rescheduled. But anyway, here we are.
Absolutely, and apparently they're 1-0 up at the moment, aren't they, Arsenal? So
yeah, 1-0. Another Trossard goal. So yes, all looking good at the moment. But anyway, how are you? How are you faring after your footballing heroics at the weekend?
I'm not going to lie, I am aching like hell. Yeah, I am not cut out anymore for running around with 18, 19-year-olds from a professional team. We literally got run ragged, got absolutely beaten to hell. I think it was like 8-1 in the end. But it was good fun, some good money raised for charity. And yeah, I'm going to do it all again in a couple of months' time. Hopefully I can get a little bit of fitness in there and feel a little bit better, not blowing out my arse after 5 minutes, which is pretty much how I felt. 75 minutes of a 90-minute game I managed. And yeah, that's pretty good going for me. I've not played football like that in a couple of years. So yeah, I'm still a bit achy, walking a bit like John Wayne. People keep laughing at me. It's quite amusing. And my nerves are not feeling any better tomorrow's Merseyside derby either.
Oh yeah, of course, that's tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah. I do like how you went from not playing football for ages to playing right wing on a full-size pitch or left wing, whichever it was.
So I actually asked to actually go sort of like left back or right back because that's how I sort of finished my playing days in defence, and turned up and they'd literally set out the formation and I actually thought I was playing left back or right back, and then as I arrived, one of the guys went, "Oh, you'll be on the wings, running up and down," and I'm like, "What?" I'm 42-year-old. I am not cut out for that. And the team that we were playing was sort of the first division, sort of like regional team. And they were very good, actually. And they were all full of like 18, 19, early 20-year-olds. And yeah, I'm just not cut out to be able to keep up with them on a wing anymore at my age. Didn't help that the pitch we were playing on was bobbly as hell. And literally it needed a tractor to roll over the whole thing. There were mounds, divots. My knees are shot from doing it. I'm just not cut out for it anymore. So yeah, that was my last weekend. So yeah, good fun. So I suppose we best introduce some guests for today, hadn't we?
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so as regular listeners and viewers of the podcast will know, we do actually have a couple of guests from a round table family every single episode that we do. So I'm going to pull them in now and introduce them. So the first one we have is Jon, who's joining us from a hotel room somewhere on the road.
Good evening, gents.
How are you doing, mate?
Doing? Yeah, good. All good, thanks. How's everyone going? It's good to finally be on here. So
can't help but notice the absence of the football.
Yeah, we'll blame Shepp for that one. I was away when I got the instructions. Oh yeah, you need to have a football shirt, and yeah,
we can pretend. It's part of this is audio, so we can just pretend.
That's fine. Yeah, there's not many places in the Midlands that sell Charlton shirts, so I have to unfortunately apologise for that bit. But yeah.
So you're London West End Round Table. I
am indeed.
Do you want to talk us through? So I don't want to ask a really stupid question, but whereabouts do you meet? Do you actually meet in the West End, or do you? Is it like it's just a name?
So yeah, we formed in 2019. We do meet in the West End of London. Our usual meeting place, if you've never been, there is a pub called the Round Table in central London, just off Leicester Square, which has a giant rondel outside as the pub sign. So that's our usual meeting place. So we've been going since 2019, rechartered club. Had the challenges of usual growing a table, but we've got a good strong base there now, and some really good links into the other tables in and around London. So we tend to. There's obviously two clubs in the centre of London. You've got the City of London, who tend to stay in the square mile, and then you've got the West End, who tend to cover the other side of central London. So yeah, good mix of members. Most of the guys will work in and around the West End, and then travel, and then we do our meetings pretty much straight after work, and then head back home afterwards. So a slightly different format to what you'd expect from your normal tables. But it works quite well. I've been in table for about 10 years now, and 5 years within this club. So yeah, good solid.
So I was going to ask
City table,
because you mentioned obviously City table, and like City tabling is quite hard, isn't it? Because a lot of our biggest tables aren't. I mean, we've struggled in Yorkshire to get one set up in Leeds for that reason, because they're a bit more. They're not as centered on one place, are they? So it's hard to pull. Not impossible, but hard. So have you found challenges, and has that affected the sort of events you do and things, or?
Yeah, I think the main thing that we do that may be different to other clubs is we don't hugely focus on kind of the community, because in the West End there isn't necessarily a community there at all in any way, shape or fashion.
Sure, yeah.
But what we tend to do is offer our time and support to other causes that clubs within their communities are running. So we've done some various bits and pieces, local beer festivals that are being run by other tables. We'll go along and support and offer manpower. If there's events that need manpower, volunteers, marshals, we'll kind of offer that side of the support as well. So I think it's a slightly different setup in that sense. But city tabling stuff, we normally struggle from sort of membership churn, particularly in London. So where we are, we have probably people move into the city quite regularly, but they only stay in London for 2 or 3 years before they move out to the suburbs, and then tabling with City becomes a challenge. So we try to make sure that if anyone does join us and then they move either back to out of town, or if they move to another city, we always try to link them up. So there's a huge amount of focus on membership. We can induct anything from 7 to 10 members a year, and we can probably lose anywhere between that same number as well in a year. So there's that constant churn of numbers and resources, which poses its own challenge. But we do okay. We've got our core, which is the main thing.
That's really interesting, and it's one of those things, isn't it, about table that they are all slightly different, and they're built for the needs of the table is in that area. So that's really interesting to hear that. that. So looking at yourself, what got you into? Was London West End the first table you joined, or were you a member of a previous table before that?
No, so my first club was a club called Gillingham 75 down in Kent. I joined. I came out of a relationship and was looking for, new social groups, new friends. And one of my friends who I worked with said, "Do you fancy coming out for a beer?" And that turned out to be a Gillingham Round Table event. Unbeknown to me, it was just going out with a group of friends. And then he said, "Oh, we meet every couple of weeks. Do you fancy coming along?" And I just kind of got into it from there. And yeah, loved every minute. One of the best decisions I've made. And I really try to embrace the do more mentality. I think there's always try and say yes to as many things as you can, because there's so many opportunities and so many things you can do within table. It's actually really, really fruitful in that sense. And I think, and I've had a great 10 and a bit years out of it now, and got a few more left in me yet.
So one of the other you kind of answered some of this. One of the other questions was about what your experience of tables been to date. So I guess have you had any like standout things that you've experienced as a result of joining?
Yeah, I think for me, if I look at the one standout for me, obviously there's tabling at different levels. You've got various different area and national events. The one that kind of always stood out for me is that international element of tabling. I've had some of my best experiences in table abroad and hosting members in the UK. Being part of an association that's got 30,000 members worldwide. I think probably the one that stands out for me is something that we went to recently, myself, and there was about 8 or 9 of us from RTBI were in the pool for the half year meeting earlier this year. And I think not only to experience that culture and the country, but also we got to experience some of their charity projects and some of the difference that the work that our Round Table International can do around the world. It is quite staggering. So we visited a hospital burns unit, which was it's a very challenging experience as well, because having to experience that and seeing what some of the people are going through, but actually seeing the difference the money makes. And then we went on to another project, which was a school for children whose parents were incarcerated. And the state the state and the charity were putting this school together, and like the costs of an education for a child in the pool is quite staggering when you think about it. I think the cost for education for a child in the pool is something like 55, 60 euros for a year, which is not a huge amount of money when you think about it. For me living in London, obviously 60 euros is £50. That's a night out in London for most of the time,
isn't it? That's insane.
Exactly. And if you for that cost a year, you can put a child through their education in the pool. So wow. Forgo one night out if you were, which is a massive thing, and that was kind of a huge impactful piece for me of the wow of how different cultures are and how much of a difference a small amount of money can make. So yeah, that was a really great experience. But actually, on top of that as well, the friendships that you make. I've travelled all around the world with table and had some wonderful times and friendships. And there's people there that I know that I will call my friends, and if I ever turn up in their city or they ever turn up in London, we'll meet up, we'll catch up, we'll go for drinks. They'll put me up in their house. It's a crazy thing to try to explain if you've never done it, but it is one of the best parts about Round Table.
Yeah, have to agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
So shall we introduce our second guest?
Yep, good idea. Let's bring him in.
Let's do it. Let's add Pete to the mix, shall we?
Evening, gents. All right.
Hello, mate. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well, mate. Thank you. A bit better than Shepp's nerves right now. I can see the tension in his eyes. And
it's okay. It's half time.
It's okay. You're starting to fumble. It's like, calm down. It's just a Spurs shirt, mate. Calm down.
Which is in the worst state right now? His nerves or you after playing football the other day?
Probably me. to be fair.
I play in goal these days for the same reason. I play seven-a-side on a Friday, and about 2 years ago now, I basically went down I'm a teacher. I went down at the last Friday of the summer holidays. I just finished for 6 weeks. Went down to play on the Friday night, rolled my ankle, tore all my ligaments, and was in a boot for the whole summer until I was still teaching in a boot in October. So ever since then, when I first went back, my ankle was still a bit dodgy. So I volunteered to go in goal, and they went, "Actually, Pete, you're all right in goal. Do you want to stay in goal?" And I've never been allowed out since.
So, Pete, I can see on there, obviously, you're part of Newport, Cardiff, and Pontypridd. Is that part of 3 tables all at once? That's quite impressive.
Yeah, well, Newport 15 I've been involved in since I started. I basically joined Round Table a few weeks after losing my dad. I literally about 2-3 weeks afterwards, I happened to be on a supporters club bus down to Tottenham from South Wales. There's a group of about 70 of us official supporters club that go down pretty regularly on the coach. And I just happened to sit. It was one of those weird coincidences. I happened to sit next to a guy called Trevor, who's a 41 clubber. And he basically spent a whole 4-hour journey to London telling me all about table and how there was this one guy, Kevin, who was trying to get Newport up and running again because it had been shut down for a few years. And he was like, "Here's Kev's number. Go along. It'd be just what you need." So I went along the following week to the first meeting, and that was it. I was in. And it's helped me through losing my dad. It's helped me through a divorce. It's helped me through all sorts of things. And then this year I've been area chairman and basically was attending more of Cardiff's socials and meetings than almost anyone else, I think. So they basically invited me to be a dual tabler. And then Pontypridd was struggling down to just 2 members and it hit a bit of a wall. And they won't mind me saying they were on the verge of packing it in. And until we went to one of the membership workshops, and I was there as well because it was in our area, and got chatting, and I said, "Look, I'll come and join you guys as well, and help you out." And we've managed to induct a half dozen members now, so they've actually had their AGM last week, and are really looking forward to the future now. Really positive, which is so much better because they were literally on the verge of giving them up. And seeing their smiles on their faces now as they talk about their plans for the next year is great. But as I said, I lost my dad just before I joined Table, and so I joined with the attitude that life's too short and just say yes to everything. So I just do everything I can. Any opportunities have come up in Table, I just say yes. I'll join another one. I'll go out and do this. I'll go there. I'll go here, and just do everything I can. It's been there for me through some tough times, and I can't recommend it enough to anybody.
Yeah, it's such a similar story as well for many people, isn't it? There's varying reasons why we end up getting into Table. And for me, not too dissimilar. Mine was more sort of mental health related, really hit a bad patch and ended up reaching out to the local table that I thought about previously and just never sort of taken that leap. And honestly, it's been one of the best things that I've ever done. Yeah. I've made lifelong friendships from doing that, and it really helped me through some pretty dark times as well. And I think that's the amazing thing about Table, and I don't think we shout about it sometimes enough about just how good it is for our mental health, and collectively the experiences that we all share can make such a positive impact. And like you said, so many different opportunities to get involved in so many different things, stuff that you wouldn't normally think about getting involved in, and the friendships that we make. So what is it that sort of your 3 tables do then generally? Do you have sort of any sort of like special events that they do, the usual bonfires and sleighs, or anything special?
Really, Pontypridd has always done a massive fireworks display. Thankfully now we've built the numbers up again. They can rely less on 41 club that they have for the last few years to get to run it. So they're looking a lot brighter now. Cardiff do a beer festival every year, and the Santa Claus.
My God!
Don't let the guys hear me say you should do one every week. Jeez,
every week.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Once a year. Our main thing in Newport, we've started doing a few other things. I spent my Easter Sunday running around Newport with the Easter Bunny this year. Just popping up on Facebook and just appearing in different places, make everyone watch the Facebook page and follow us around Newport for free Easter eggs. and which was great, and our Santa sleigh as well, that I just love because we tend to target the more deprived areas of Newport, and they're so grateful for us coming around. A lot of those kids don't get to see Santa, don't get a lot of these things, these experiences, if we don't get there and do that for them. And my favourite bit actually is probably when every year at Christmas, after one of our runs, we go to a respite care home for special needs children. And I'm always Santa that when we go that night. I always insist on it because I pull rank. I'm a teacher, and I've worked with autistic kids as well. And so I love going in there and just seeing the look on their faces. It's really, it's hard sometimes to hold the tears back sometimes because they are, in such awe and wonder. We had a little deaf boy come out one year, came out to the sleigh. We turned all the music off, but we kept all the lights on and things. And he just came out with the biggest beaming smile on his face and ripped open this selection box that we had and sat with me on the sleigh and gave me a massive hug. And he was just, it's one of those magical things you only get to do a table. I love it.
I think trying to explain that to somebody outside a table as well, to prospective members and stuff, it's really, really hard because it is literally, I mean, I love sleigh and it is probably my favorite event of the year.
Yeah.
It's very similar reasons. So the first time, my first year in table, I was like, right, say yes to everything. I'm in. I'm doing Santa, the skinniest Santa you could ever see, stuffing cushions in there to make it work.
Get a pillow in there. Yeah.
But literally, we go to the same place. It happened again this year. It was actually Wallace who was our Santa this year when it happened. But we had going to this little cul-de-sac, and there's a couple of disabled kids that are bedbound in there, and we always come running out. They're like, "Oh yeah, can you come in?" And we always go in, and it's kind of heartbreaking at the same time as it is magical to be able to see the looks on these kids' faces and the smiles, and when they hand you the letters and just the whole magic around the whole thing for me is just one of those things that you try and explain that to people outside a table, that you're the ones creating this magic. It's strange. And for me this year, I decided I was actually going to drive. So I actually have a tow bar on the truck now for once, which is like kind of a must in table these days. Have they got a tow bar? You're in. And I actually
you've lumbered yourself as the driver now. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've actually, like I said, this year I'll do as many as I can because I got to see it from a completely different perspective, and to actually see as sort of like approaching and actually not having to wave to people or bucket collects. I actually got to see things from a different perspective and just sit back and just kind of sit in that magical moment and looking at the smiles. It's not just the young people either. It's like the OAPs that wave from the window, and it's just that whole magic of sleigh for me is just brilliant.
Yeah, I was lucky this year as area chair. I went around and basically over a week, every night I went to a different table in my area and went and helped out with their Santa sleigh. And to see how differently they all do it, you think it's a pretty standard thing. But Abergavenny have got this massive steam train covered in lights that goes around in like a parade with their Santa sleigh. And everyone does it differently, but they're all equally as successful and equally as appreciated by the community. Especially when you get to those deprived areas, and they really, really appreciate it. And actually, when we raise money as we go around, we actually collect more money from those deprived areas a lot of the time because they are so grateful for it, and they just they love it.
So obviously we touched on sort of like your experiences of table and stuff like that. So I guess we could probably move on to why Spurs. Why Spurs?
Basically, ever since I was a kid, I was like 7 years old, and my idols were Gary Lineker and Gazza. And like a lot of kids, these days have grow up with watching Crybaby Ronaldo and things like that, and they support PSG because they watch Mbappe on the telly and things like that. But when we were kids, it was all Man United this, because they were everywhere. And I just wanted to be. I just loved watching Gazza play, and I wanted to be Gary Lineker. Gary Lineker was my hero when I was a little kid, and it basically stuck. And I just ever since then, my mum always thought I changed my mind as I grew up. My mum pretends to be an Arsenal fan to wind me up. She's not. She pretends. Even now she'll be like, "Oh yeah, Spurs and Arsenal play and it goes the wrong way." She's like, oh yeah, we won again. I'm like, no, Mum, you can't claim that, because whenever I ask you who plays for Arsenal these days, you come out with Ian Wright and David Seaman. I'm like, don't pretend it's not. Don't pretend it's not. Just
much like myself, we can't accuse you of being a Glory supporter, can we? Yeah, both our trophy cabinets are pretty bare, I think.
We have got the best stadium though, by a long shot.
Until next year.
Next year.
So what's been still have the best stadium in the Premier League, though? You might have the best one in the Championship next season.
That's very true. It's quite possible.
Might not even.
I went to
stadium alone.
I did go to Everton was it last season for the away game, and sat on those awful wooden seats in the away section. It's possibly the most uncomfortable I've ever been watching a game of football. And I went to when we played Newport County in the Cup, and I went and sat in the temporary scaffolding stand that they built. I think that was more comfortable than those wooden seats at Everton.
So Goodison have a really good way, and Everton do it to the opposing team as well. So I actually recently went on the Goodison tour. I took my 6-year-old along. I really wanted him to see sort of like the inner workings of the ground and stuff before it goes in a couple of years. And they were telling us all about the fact that you go into the away dressing room and you look at the home dressing room next to it, and it is literally chalk and cheese. It's literally like going back to like a Sunday league sort of dressing room. Literally, the stands are smack above you. There's no soundproofing. The only heating comes from a pipe that runs across the ceiling. The benches slide, so they're all on an angle, and the showers are just horrendous. It's like stepping back into the 1960s.
Old school.
Deliberately, you walk into the home dressing room, and it's like lap of luxury. And I think they do that similar to the away stand. They deliberately not replace the seats to try and make it as uncomfortable as possible, because it's a very uncomfortable ground to come to as a visiting supporter. But yeah, it's definitely a unique ground. I'm going to be sad to see it go. I think. So, what's been your best experience as a Spurs fan?
I mean, there's loads. I mean, some of my favourite memories: going to watch the Champions League final down at the stadium. We couldn't get tickets, but our whole supporters club went on a coach down to the stadium and watched it on the big screens in the stadium. Just the atmosphere. I was in the stand right behind the goal when against Burnley, when Son scored his Puskas goal, when he went the entire length of the pitch.
Oh yeah,
and beat 7 players and scored. We were shouting until he got to halfway. We were shouting at him to pass, and then he just kept going. We were like, don't bother, just keep going. And then, it was definitely the best goal I've ever seen live. It's just some of the cup games I've been to. I remember going to watch the Newport County game and sitting there, sort of almost with my hands sat on my hands, not going to get into trouble with any of the Newport fans because I was sort of in the home section, and then paying the exact same price to go to Wembley and have hospitality tickets for the midweek replay. It's like top and bottom of the football pyramid almost. But it's fantastic. Some of the players we've had over the years. I mean, I was sorry to see Harry Kane go. Obviously, seen him put in a lot of special performances and goals over the years. But yeah, one day we'll get there. One day we'll find the missing piece. But I'm enjoying Ange Ball this season. I really like Ange. I think he's just a top bloke. And yeah, I think there's a lot of managers it's easy to dislike, but I don't think anyone can actually dislike Ange Postecoglou. You might dislike trying to pronounce his name, but I don't think anyone. He's just one of those blokes that's just likable. You can't not like him. He's just infectious. Might be because he's Aussie. I don't know. I
can try.
Or you can try. Yeah, you can try. But your manager's got Lego hair, so it's the only ever like piece of Lego hair that's ever been full of grease at the same time.
I think we're just talking there for 2 seconds. It's 2-0 currently, just so we're all aware.
Is it really?
So
this is one of those games. Arsenal and Chelsea is one of those games where I'm like, I can't decide who I want to lose most.
You're next.
It's one of those games where you cheer.
We're coming to you next.
That's a 1-0 that's been ruled out by VAR.
Hey.
Oh, is it?
No.
It's one of those games where you hope for the stretcher bearers to come on and a few red cards to come out.
And so we had this. So ironically, we've had 2 Spurs fans on this podcast now. So I I won't have any chat about how I'm biased about the guests we have. I've got no problems with chatting to Spurs fans. We've had 2 Spurs fans, and both of them have been Welsh. So
Well,
there's
that's the
definitely
thing.
a thing
I'm
about
not Welsh.
South
I'm from
Wales.
Bristol originally, Olivia, but yeah, I'm from.
Oh,
Bristol
you're not
originally.
okay, right? Fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still
right,
not from
fine.
London,
All right.
but you know.
Well, that's not a problem, but it's just an interesting one. Yeah, we had Mike Mike Ennis. He came on just before Christmas, wasn't it? I think. And but Ange is a weird one because he had a really good start, didn't he, to the season? I think the first eight games or so were really good. And I don't mind the direct approach for managers, but he's one of those managers that it's a bit like Pep in how he responds to some of the journalists' questions, legitimate questions as well, with just annoying, sarky responses. And I know that's just him, and that's how he is, and that's fine. But that's, I don't know, that's the only thing that a little grates on me a little bit. I think the football he plays or his teams play is excellent, is good football. Whether or not he's got a plan B, and whether or not that will hurt Spurs fundamentally, I don't know. I mean, North London derby obviously is on. Is it on Sunday? Must be on Sunday.
Yeah, that's why I'm not going, because we couldn't get tickets, and then they couldn't decide what day it was going to be on. We had to wait and see how many Bayern beat you by. I mean, sorry, if you were going to get past Bayern, and they couldn't decide what it couldn't that's what annoys me when they move the games all the time. And they've moved the games once the tickets have gone on sale. That really bugs me.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting game, though.
Was the best.
Yeah, the games don't get moved.
No,
you get the odd
unless
one.
Unless you go deep in the Johnson's Paint Trophy.
Well, there seems to be a trend at the moment of stocking up on like naff international players. Like we've got a couple of guys playing for us at the moment. We've got a couple of Jamaicans and a couple of like St. Lucian players. And as long as you have 3 internationals, you get to call the games off on international weekends. So there's a lot of teams that do that just to give themselves some extra time and some breaks in the season. So we got Michael Hector, formerly of Chelsea and Reading. And we got a couple of youngsters as well that both play international football in the Caribbean, but that means that every time it's an international break, we get the game called off, because as long as they're fit and called up to the squad, you get the game called off. So
brilliant.
So you're obviously a Charlton fan. So talk us through.
I am indeed.
Why Charlton?
It's my local team. I'm about 5 miles from the ground, so literally they are the team that I support. You know, home and away where possible. I think due to our dreadful league ups and downs, I've probably I think I'm about 3/4 of the way through the 92 at the moment. So most of the ones I've got left to go are the Premier League. So we need to get back up there. But yeah, it's been a challenging kind of, I'd say, decade for Charlton fans. Probably ever since like 2013, we've had a lot more lows than we have had highs, because we've had some really interesting owners, shall we say, with views on how you run football clubs, and not promising the world and not investing any money. We even had someone who tried to buy the club who was almost like a fake sheikh, as it were, claimed to have loads of money, and turns out he didn't have a penny. We've ended up in the courts a couple of times. Real highs and lows, and kind of nothing in between at the moment. We're our 3rd manager this year, so it's not been the best season for us. But you know, we're safe in the division. We've got a good. I think we've got the right guy in now in Nathan Jones, formerly of Southampton and Luton, so he knows his way around the division. I think we're unbeaten in something like 13, 14 games, so we're doing all right. We're just drawing a lot of them at the moment. So I think, you know, looking good for next year, and that change around. So enjoy it while it lasts, because unfortunately,
not to interrupt proceedings, but Martin Odegaard has just played an absolute worldie of an assist. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
I mean, we might get into it a little bit later, but I think unfortunately Pete may be smiling on Sunday, and I think that's where it's going to all come crashing down for you guys. I'm afraid, but so yeah.
I mean, it's only Chelsea beating tonight. It's only some crummy mid-table team.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
So I think for us in terms of highlights, I think the big one was our playoff run when we scored in the last minute at Wembley to go up against Sunderland after one of the best own goals you'll ever see at Wembley, if you can remember that one. So our centre back passed it to the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper wasn't there. So that was after 7 minutes. We went 1-0 down, and we battled back, got to 1-1, and then scored literally 94th minute with the last kick of the game to win at Wembley, which was that was a great day. That was probably the best season we had, and we did it with a lot of loan players as well. But good solid loan players, and I think we actually see one of the good things about some of the lower league football is where you get a lot of loan players. You actually get to see some of the talents of the future coming through. So we've had players. So Conor Gallagher, obviously playing at the moment, his first loan out was at Charlton before he went to Swansea. I think some of the other ones we had over the years. So we had Christian Bielik on loan as he's an ex-Arsenal guy. He was on loan with us for a while. We had Alex Song on loan way back when. And we had a guy called last year from Crystal Palace, which is a swear word, but I will say it once and once only. A guy called Jezerin Raksaki, who's a winger. And he's started to play a little bit in the first team this year, but he's got injured, but he'll be one to watch in the future. And the other big one we had was a guy called Josh Cullen at Burnley. His first loan from West Ham was with us as well. So, we've had some really great players over the years on loan. And I think sometimes, as much as I enjoy Premier League football, sometimes just a little bit of lower league, no VAR, none of the histrionics or anything like that. And you just kind of, turn up to an away day, stand on the terrace and watch some football. And that's everything from sort of non-league to Premier League. So I've got tickets. I'm going tomorrow night. I'm going to the National League South playoff semi-final, which is Maidstone against Aveley. And then on Sunday, I've got tickets for the Bromley game against Altrincham. So I've got 2 non-league playoff semi-finals coming up this week as well, which will be really good.
Good old-fashioned proper football.
Absolutely.
Whereabouts are they being played?
So Maidstone Aveley's at Maidstone, which is about 45 minutes from me, and Bromley is at home. It's at Bromley's home ground, so that's again about 45 minutes from me. So,
of course, it's an old-fashioned away leg, home leg thing, isn't it? With the semis, and then where does the final get? Does the final get played at Wembley?
They're one-legged semi-finals. So the way they do it in the National League is the higher you finish, you get a home. So you get a home game in it as opposed to an away game, and it's one-legged. So
do they do that in the other leagues then as well? Or is it just National League?
EFL's 2 legs.
Yeah,
it's only
because that feels unfair, doesn't it? You kind of feel like a team that finishes third should get some sort of benefit to finishing third and not.
I suppose that's the benefit. They get the team that finishes third, get the home draw, and the ones who finish like 6th get the away draw, I guess.
Yeah.
But not in the Championship or League 1, League 2.
No.
They get the second leg at home. So if you finish third and fourth, so whoever's third in the Championship will be home in the second leg, and fourth will be the same. They get the more decisive game, as it were, at home. But no, love my football, and some of the experiences, some of the fans you speak to, are just up and down the country. Yeah. It's refreshing to see, and I probably encourage a lot of people to actually get out there and obviously, Pete, you've done Newport County as well. I've been there this year as a Charlton fan. We lost 3-0, which was not my best day.
No, it's a long way to go for an awful ground against an awful team to lose
on a Tuesday night. It's the pyramid is such a special thing. Like, it needs to be protected massively, and you wouldn't get half of the stuff that you see in this country in any other country. And I think it's a blessing that we need to maintain and keep.
I'm a bit jealous of you guys in the lower league not having VAR though, because sometimes it's great in a way, but it just doesn't work the way they run it. I felt so sorry for Coventry on the weekend. They deserved to win that game. For him to be ruled out, the ref had given a goal. For it to be ruled out by a couple of inches is just Man United deserve to lose that game.
I think that leads us quite nicely on to our next topic, doesn't it? That was an amazing lead-in. I quite like what you did there.
Transition.
I don't know. So I agree. I thought Man United deserved to lose that game, and Ten Hag, I mean, he's gonna get sacked, and the stuff he's come out with after that game about how offended he's been that everyone thought I really dislike that guy, and but the thing about the Coventry goal and VAR is I feel like VAR, they have applied that rule consistently throughout the season. Maybe there is an argument about the fact that it doesn't, not all rounds of the FA Cup have VAR in, therefore should it even have VAR at all? And maybe they need to look at it and draw some fatter lines that if there's an overlap, they give the benefit of the doubt to the attacker. I feel like situations like that, it's shit that a team gets robbed of because it's not a very precise thing, is it? They can draw the lines, but it's all based on the camera angle and someone's best judgment. And there comes a point where plus or minus error comes into play, doesn't it? And then you're thinking, well, is this really what we're here for? I always feel like the slight benefit should be given to the attacker. But that has to be applied consistently, and United got done at the Emirates in exactly the same way earlier on in the season. So I feel like, for VAR for that could be done better. And there's a really easy way that it could be done better. The handball rule, I don't think I even understand the handball rule anymore.
No.
It's 4-0.
Even on Match of the Day, they've given up trying to explain it now.
They're ridiculous.
We don't even know. The offside, though, I feel like the technology now that they have, they've all got trackers in the back of their shirts, those little lumps just above their shirt numbers.
Yeah.
They've all got these trackers that produce all this data for where they run and where they are on the pitch at any one time. Surely there's a way they can make the offsides automated using those. If you just use
they will be. Yeah, they're going to automate them from the first international break of the new season, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, I saw that. Why not the start of the season? I don't know, but let's just bring it out. Let's just change the rules halfway through the season.
I think the Premier League all over, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think the handball rules changed 3 times this season.
There's 2 main things for me with VAR, and it's the main one for me that kind of stands out above all of this is kind of just the consistency of the application, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the most frustrating piece. And I think there's also a question mark that kind of comes from that over how they do this in the stadiums, because obviously I'm assuming we'll come on to Nottingham Forest at some point and some mention of their statements. But I think if you look at if you look at like other sports and what they do, you've got things like rugby and cricket where they will play the sound that is over the tannoy for those bigger decisions, so that everyone can understand what is being discussed and what is going on. So if you pause the game, I don't see why you can't do that in a football stadium. Again, no
reason why you can't have the refs mics like they're doing the rugby.
Yeah, exactly that.
And have the replays on the big screen.
Yeah, so it's just that transparency for me. Yeah. It feels very like secretive, and that's the bit I don't like. Is there's nothing to be secretive about. The referee's made a decision based on his judgment. The VAR will either say yes, you back it up, or no, you don't, and it's as simple as that. And I don't understand why we have to have it so complicated in this country. When you look at other countries around the world, and in particular like international tournaments and things like that, they have very clear handball rules, offside rules, and they never have any of this drama. So it has to be the way that the Premier League is applying these rules, and it needs to change.
Yeah, and like the Women's World Cup, the one thing I noticed about that is like all the VAR decisions, they had them on the screens, they had the refs mic'd. They were, why they don't do that everywhere else, I don't know. They trialed it I think they were trialing it in the Women's World Cup, and it works because everyone knew what was going on. A lot of the time, you haven't got a clue what's happening. You're sat in the stadium waiting to see if you can celebrate a goal or not, and you don't know what they're doing. You just have to sit there waiting and see what the purple screen says after about 2 minutes. Why it takes so long, I don't know. They go on about the clear and obvious thing. It can't be clear and obvious if it takes 3-4 minutes to decide. It's just
I think, it's crazy. And I think we're in a situation at the moment where they're drawing these lines for the offside and stuff like that. And we're in a situation where realistically, the size of somebody's boots can actually determine whether you're actually, their shoe size can determine whether they're offside or not. We're talking about millimeters and, centimeters here rather than, clear and obvious, like you said. And it's just, I think Pete, Jon said it actually, the consistency of it, it's just so frustrating that it is so inconsistent. And I know we are going to come on to that Forest statement. And obviously as an Everton fan, I was invested in that match at the weekend as well. And even I couldn't work out whether they were clear and obvious. But I can understand the frustrations of so many teams because there is just no consistency there with the decisions that are actually being made. If it was consistent, I think every football fan would be, I'm for this. But currently, I don't actually know many football fans that will say, VAR is actually fit for purpose, because sadly, it's not at the moment. And that's a sad reality of where we're at. And I agree, as a rugby man myself, playing rugby and watching rugby league, the fact that everything is audible, you can hear the whole decision, you can hear the whole conversation. There's no reason why they can't do that in football. And instead, we've had the likes of Nottingham Forest, like Liverpool did earlier in the season, coming out and saying we want to make the audio public. Why is it a secret anyway? There's no reason why it should be, particularly if it's supposed to be for clear and obvious errors. It's just not fit for purpose at the moment. They need to make some serious improvements to it if they want fans to actually invest in VAR going forward.
5-0, dear God.
It's not, is it?
This is so good. This is
the
so
Chelsea,
good.
The Chelsea implosion has begun.
Yeah.
That's insane.
5-0.
That's Poch taking them down from the inside. That is Agent Poch.
5-0. That's
He's
insane.
sending to Chelsea to take them down from the inside.
It's bad when Ben White scores as well.
It's
Ben White.
It's a volleyed lob as well.
Ben White, the man who spends more time tanning than training.
Literally, boom. See you later.
Chelsea's inconsistency, though, is just crazy this season. I mean, literally only a week ago, they absolutely battered Everton 6-0. And to be fair, the scoreline flattered them. It was just absolutely terrible. But they beat a team 6-0. Literally the following week, they're losing 5-0 to Arsenal. The inconsistency of that team is just crazy at the moment.
They've got big problems in the sense that they need to be in the Champions League in the next year or two. Otherwise, they are going to be foul of financial fair play on many, many levels.
I don't know how they're not already, considering how much money they spent. It's ridiculous. It's into the billions.
Because they keep selling hotels, don't they?
Yeah,
it's our hotels. It's not the same, is it? It's not.
It's the way they've amortized their players is the main thing. So because they put them on 7 or 8 year contracts for most of them, which they've now stopped again.
Yeah,
you can only do 5 years on the contract. Because they put them on 7 years or 8 year contracts, the cost of the player, say they spend 70 million on the player, it's 10 million over 7 years as opposed to 15 million over 5 years. So you can spread the cost thinner.
They are going to have to sell, though, I think. I think they're going to have to sell some players to be able to come in under that, unless obviously the sale of hotels is allowed now as an allowable cost when the building of a new stadium, isn't it? I'm not going to go down that route. I said I'm not going to do it.
Would you, if you want, you said you like having dodgy internationals at Charlton, John? Would you like Mudryk? He's about Charlton's level, isn't he? How they spent that money on him, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he fits our style at the moment. I think that's the challenge. He's a good player, but he's been doing it at Shakhtar Donetsk, which, let's be honest, is a traumatic and, to a certain degree, is not the standard of football you get in the Premier League. I still think they've bought good players. I just don't think they've gelled, and I think they've got a big problem there in the sense that I don't think they can get rid of Pochettino because he's going to cost them too much money. He's not going to do anything with them. So,
and also, who would they bring in?
Limbo.
There isn't anyone else, is there? Really? Like, I mean, Liverpool are struggling, aren't they, to find a new manager?
Yeah, they said they were getting Amorim, but that seems to have. He keeps being linked with other people now. So
the Feyenoord manager is the guy I've heard mentioned again today for Liverpool, because they won the Dutch Cup at the weekend, and he's done really well there. But again,
do you think he'd slot right into Liverpool, John?
I don't know. I mean, if you were looking for someone to come in who's an absolute out and out winner, there's probably one name I can think of that you'd say how much do you want at the moment, and that's Zidane. You look at what he did at Madrid, and okay, he had the Galacticos at Madrid, but the style of football, the kind of the way he engages with the team, I think he'd do quite well at Liverpool. Yeah. Whether he'd go there or not's another story, because I think my personal feel is that probably Deschamps will go at the end of the World Cup and Zidane will be the next manager of France. Is probably where he's heading, but yeah, you never can tell. I mean, like there's people like, as much as he got a raw deal at Chelsea, I think Graham Potter is a very good manager. We don't know what's going to happen with Southgate after the Euros. The market will be lively this year, I think.
I think that all depends as well on what people actually afford to spend.
Yeah,
exactly. A lot of teams are really worried about spending because they're so in fear of these points deductions that keep happening. And I think that kind of stymied the January transfer window massively. It was a bit of a flop, wasn't it? It was really flat. Will we see that in the summer transfer window as well, as teams look at their squads and look at the FFP side of things and the profit and sustainability? I think we already know Newcastle have to sell. They're dangerously in risk of it. We think Chelsea are going to be the same. We'll see. Yeah, it's a bit worrying for a lot of teams, and especially when they need to offload players to kind of fall within the remits of FFP and profit and sustainability. If they have to sell players, but nobody's buying because of the fear of, points deductions and everything else. I know they're changing the rules shortly. Again, it's the Premier League, isn't it? They're changing the rules and all of that slightly, which will probably mean that City, with their 115 charges, and Chelsea probably get away with it when they probably should have been charged. But yeah, I wonder what the current summer transfer window that we're looking at is going to look like. Obviously, we've got the Euros as well, which usually means it's quite quiet until after the Euros, and there's some big frenzied buying of whoever was the star of the Euros as well. It's going to be an interesting one.
I think it will show the value of the academies as well. I think that's going to be the big thing. Is a lot of teams are going to invest massively in their academy programs because they're going to have to home grow the talent. And obviously, there's certain clubs out there that have got great academies, and the ones that haven't are the ones that are going to struggle. If you look at the teams that have got good academies at the moment, you'd say Liverpool, City have got decent academies. Chelsea, unfortunately, have a great academy. We have a fairly good academy. I think we're top 10 in the country. And one of our the way they want to structure our squad. So we're set up to be a break-even team, but the squad is 8 academy players, 8 Championship standard players, and 8 League One standard players. That's what they aim to do. So we always aim to have 8 academy players in our squad. So a third of our squad will always be academy, which is good to see because you can actually buy into it a little bit more as well.
So obviously we spoke about it very briefly with the whole VAR situation, some pretty horrific howlers in the recent sort of run of games. We touched on it very briefly with regards to the Nottingham Forest whole statement after the Everton game on Sunday. So what's your thoughts on that? It's crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't. People say they were saying that you can't really question the integrity of the official, but and I suppose it's not the professional way of going about it, the statement they put out, but if they did genuinely put this concern across to the PGMOL about this official supposedly being a Luton fan, and their request was sort of just tossed out, as they claim, and you look at those 3 penalty decisions, and certainly 2 of them. The first one where he sort of kicks him in the back of the boot, like you watched Match of the Day, and he said, well, he did plant his foot afterwards and then went down, but obviously he must have been off balance. I've seen them given, I've seen them not. A handball was a handball, but again, I think the changes in the rules all the time. I think that, like Match of the Day, again, they said earlier in the season that handball would have been given 99 times out of 100. Now they've changed the rule. It's not, which isn't really fair. And then the last one, where the Forest player got to the ball first and then just got taken out from behind. How VAR didn't intervene and give that as a penalty, I don't know. That was the last one was definitely the worst. It was abysmal. And it does seem like everyone says it evens out over the season, but I do kind of feel a little bit for Forest, because it does seem to happen to them a lot. I feel like they should almost get a whole load of Mario Balotelli shirts, the Why Always Me T-shirts that Mario Balotelli used to wear, because it does seem to happen to them more than anyone else. So, I don't know why. I do feel a bit sorry for him. Not too sorry, because, their manager's a Spurs reject. He was awful. But, yeah.
Do you want to know the most ironic thing about it all? So UEFA today have announced that Stuart Atwell is one of the VAR officials for the Euros for England.
Of course he is.
And that's the crux of it. I think Pete hit the nail on the head. There's a massive difference between quality and integrity. I think there's no denying that the quality and standard of the officiating in across all English football is shocking. Trust me, if you think it's bad in the Premier League, you should see some of the stuff we have to put up with in League One. But I think the part I struggle with is questioning the officials' integrity. None of those officials ever set out to do a bad job, but that is the quality and standard of where they are at the moment. For what it's worth, I think there was at least, of the 3, you would like to think that you'd get at least one of those overturned as a penalty. It's a difficult one in that sense, and I think had they gone about it in the right way and actually said to the referees, the PGMOL, can you explain to us these decisions? Can we have the audio of them? I don't think anyone would have had an issue. But putting out statements like that just literally instantly puts you on the back foot, and it kind of throws out a lot of sympathy that most fans will have. And you may have seen, I don't know. So obviously there's the Ashley Young tweet that's floating around that he put out on Monday about Crimea River, and then there's the also the comment around. When Forest got promoted to the Premier League and there was VAR in that playoff final, and they got a debatable VAR call, and they were celebrating the fact that they got the debatable VAR call. So, it's I don't necessarily disagree with what they asked for, but I think it's the way they did it that's going to land them in some very hot water with the FA, unfortunately. And I think they're going to
they crossed the line.
Some serious fines.
They're going to get charges.
Yeah,
but that last one was horrific. They showed the replay, and the referee just sort of was motioning that he got the ball. He was there going like that, and he clearly didn't get the ball first. So the referee basically didn't give a penalty because he thought the defender got the ball. But you can see that from VAR that he didn't. So why they didn't correct that, I don't know.
I mean, even as an Everton fan that was on the opposite end of that, obviously I'm grateful that we didn't. We've had plenty of dodgy decisions go against us from VAR all season. Some absolute howls as well. So it makes a change for us to be on the positive end of that. But even I said that third one was a stonewall penalty. I can understand the handball. Nobody understands the handball rule anymore. This whole defenders having to put their hands behind the back thing to him, that's not natural.
Yeah.
His hand for where he was actually, the way he was running, the way he was actually moving was actually in a natural position for what he was doing. So I can kind of get that one. The first one, again, 50-50, it could have gone either way. We've seen him given, we've seen him not. Can accept that. That third one, that was stonewall penalty, and I can't believe that wasn't given. That said, the way that Nottingham Forest have actually come out and made that statement, questioning an official's integrity, it's like a school kid. It's like a drunken fan in a pub that's really annoyed over the decisions that have gone against them, and the fact that they've got Mark Clattenburg in as a kind of consultant, if you like, because of the decisions that have been going against them. He hasn't come out and distanced himself from that, and I think that's going to have a knock-on effect for his integrity as well. The fact that he hasn't come out straight away and said, no, I'm distancing myself from that. I didn't ask them to put that statement out. I think they are going to get, unfortunately, some quite significant punishment for that. I think they're going to get some quite hefty fines, not just the club. The manager's going to get one as well for his comments, and also one of the players as well that came out and said it the way he said it. There's better ways of going about that, better ways of dealing with it, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, John, when you said there's better ways of doing it. And had they actually come out and done it in the proper way, most football fans, myself included, who profited from that game, would have said, you know what, I agree with you, the consistency of VAR at the minute is shocking. As I said, we've had so many different problems with shocking decisions throughout the season. We've been on the wrong end of it.
Yeah.
The timing of it as well was very unfortunate. Nottingham Forest have got their hearing for their appeal against their points deduction this week. They've literally put a target on the back now, which I don't know how that's going to pan out. I know they say it's an independent commission. We know from the Everton side of things, it's not as independent as they make out it is. But how it's going to play out, but it's not going to favour the fans, and it's only going to be the fans that suffer as a result of it. And I've been one of those that said all along, I don't want Nottingham Forest to get relegated because of a points deduction, because I don't think that was the right punishment for them. But yeah, that statement was a little bit shambolic, if I'm honest. And it's done in the wrong way.
You got to wonder who okayed that message and thought, yeah, we'll put that out on Twitter. You've got to think that somebody in the club had to have okayed that, and either that or someone in the social media team at Forest is getting the sack. Because you just
that's the way it's been going. I've noticed this with some clubs. The social media accounts have been getting a little bit more testy over the years, but albeit with like GIFs or some of the memes or some of the it started to move. When they originally were set up, it was very sort of professional, down the line. We'll just report on the scores, and it's just started to move away from that. And I mean, Forest obviously massively crossed the line. But I'm with John. It boils my blood when people question referees' integrity. It honestly, it makes me so angry, because like you say, people they don't go out of their way to make a mistake. They are human beings, and all we do is complain about poor refereeing, and there aren't enough referees. Well, no, I mean, who would want to be a referee in this day and age? Like, even in Sunday League, you just. There needs to be, and it's been needed for a while, there needs to be an absolute clampdown on things like this off the pitch and on the pitch. Dissent, the whole works. Players need to be a bit like they do in rugby. The respect has to be there, and if that has to be done by a sort of punitive measures at the start, then so be it. But I've seen it so many times. I've seen it playing football as well. And I just feel so sorry for refs, because they just cannot win. Because at the end of the day, even when they make a good decision, 11 players are going to be howling at them.
Yeah.
because they think it's a bit of gamesmanship, and and now with VAR, it's just everything has become more amplified because the decision. I mean, yeah, some of the decisions at the weekend were probably a bit more obvious, but some of the decisions that VAR have to adjudicate on are like minuscule grey area type things. The handball thing, still, I don't think there's enough evidence on either of those handballs. The Forest one. The Everton one at the weekend, and also the United one, to overturn the referee's decision, and that's what VAR is there to do. It's there to overturn a clear and obvious error. It's not to, set an absolute rule for something which is very subjective. How far out can your arm be before it's not in a natural position? I don't know the answer to that question. So
it's confusing. Isn't it? Like if it's the other way around, if it's an attacking player and it touches your arm in any way and leads to a goal, it's disallowed, no matter where your arm is. So it's all over the place, and it seems to be up to the VAR to decide how they want to interpret the rule that week.
Going back to the point that you made as well, Shepp, I mean, it's a long while ago now, but sort of 15, 20 years ago, I used to be a referee for the local county, and it hasn't moved on in 15, 20 years. The only difference is there's more eyes on it and more exposure to it, I suppose. I was doing this as a sort of 16, 17-year-old kid, extra bit of pocket money at a weekend. I was never good enough standard to play, so I was like, let's go and do some refereeing. And, I had various different things, from parents fighting on the touchline. One of the kids tried to headbutt me at one point. And then refereeing and running the line for adult games. It just hasn't changed in 15 years, 20 years. And I think how you get around, you are right. The only way you're going to get around it is a total clampdown on it. And the irony is the FA and Premier League said at the start of the season they were going to clamp down on it. And within about 3 games, everyone started complaining about it, and it's all gone back to how it was before. And that's the crux of it. They say they're going to do something, but then because all the big teams moan, they've changed their mind again.
Yeah, and players need to realise, and managers, that they're role models for kids. Like I've been a teacher, yonks, and I always run school football teams over the years, and you see it everywhere. I always said to my teams that, if you argue with the referee, I'll sub you. I don't care who you are, if you're playing well or not. I'll sub you. I might bring you back on, but I'll sub you and have a word with you. And because you don't do it. But I've seen so many instances where parents and other kids have screamed at the referee. You get parents, it's a kid's game. After school, it means nothing in terms of, there's no money on it. It's just supposed to be there for them to enjoy it. And it's unbelievable. They watch this. It's what they watch on TV every day. They just see their clips of their heroes doing the same thing, giving referees a mouthful and standing in front of free kicks so people can't take them. And, every little trick under the sun. When you watch the Man United Coventry penalty shootout and you see Bruno Fernandes giving the Coventry keeper a bit of a slide, few comments there, and as he's walking away from his penalty, and you get, what's his name, Onana, doing his best to put him off, a bit like Martinez does, and gets a yellow card. But what does he care? He's already been booked, but apparently that doesn't carry over. So that yellow card is no consequence to him whatsoever. He just gets away with it. And lo and behold, the following penalty, then the Coventry player skies it over the bar. But they get away with it. And that's what the kids see, and that's what they copy.
Yeah, we've mentioned it a few times, haven't we? Sort of like the whole VAR thing about rugby. Yeah. Now, in rugby, you get none of that with the referee. There's a massively huge respect for the officials in that sport, particularly in rugby league, where you literally call them sir or ma'am. It's a whole different level of respect.
Because they send them off. Send them off.
I mean, they introduced the rule supposedly where only the captains could speak to the referees in the Premier League. But then, and anyone else who went up to the referee, you had 2-3 players, they were supposedly meant to get booked. But because that just happened all the time, and they go, well, we can't book everyone, then it just went out the window.
Yes, you can book everyone.
Yeah.
If we end up seeing 7v7,
exactly.
that's what it should be.
That's my argument. If you book them, they'll stop doing it. But they know they can get away with it. Carry on mobbing the poor ref.
What was the thing in FIFA where you could, if you got like down to 6 players, the match gets
abandoned? There was a game, I think it was probably 10, 15 years ago now, and it was Sheffield United, West Brom, I think. And the game got abandoned because Sheffield United had either 3 or 4 players sent off and 1 injured. So they actually had to abandon the game because they ran out of players to play.
Oh, brilliant! Should we have a quick chat about the? I wanted to quickly have reference. Obviously, the title races are hotting up across the pyramid, and also the races to not go down. So I wanted to just quickly touch on that and just literally quick fire. Who do you think is going to win and go down? And we could probably go. Well, my knowledge kind of gets a bit hazy after the championship, so John will rely on you after that. But Premier League, who do we think is going to win?
Sorry, I think
everyone says Man City.
No, I think they've got. I mean, they've got a couple of games in hand, I think now, and I think if they win those, they're top. But I mean, you might want to consider how Spurs are going to do in the next few games, because we've got to play all 3. So depending on how our games go the next few weeks, it could make a big difference. We could decide who it goes to.
I have a theory that if we get past you at the weekend, then it opens up some real possibilities, because I think you could take points off City, potentially.
Yeah, we're City's bogey team. I mean, we seem to beat them a lot, especially at home.
There's a difference for me between who do I want to win it and who do I think will win it.
Yeah, that's my head over as well.
My heart is the lesser of the 3 evils for somebody living in London out of those 3 teams to win is Man City, believe it or not. Because if Arsenal win, we'll never hear the end of it. Yeah. I think the Champions League results midweek will have a massive effect. And I actually think Arsenal might do it. I've got this funny feeling they might do it. I just think City have been too inconsistent in the big moments this year. And I just got this funny feeling Arsenal might just nick it. And I mean nick it like the odd point here and there, the odd goal difference here and there. But I just got this funny feeling they're going to do it this year.
It'll go down to the wire.
It will come down. It will come down to goal difference. If City draw one of their games, it will come down to goal difference, because we'll be on the same points as them. So, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, I think my worry, particularly with I think head says Man City are probably going to do it just because of the games in hand, and can we see them slipping up potentially? What I want to know is I need that relegation battle to be over by the last game of the season, because we play Arsenal. And I am not going through another last day of the season like I had last year. Last year, we played Bournemouth on the last day of the season. I was in Lanzarote, which is exactly what I'm doing when it comes to the last game of the season. And I am point blank refusing to watch it. I wouldn't like to fancy our chances against Arsenal if the title race hasn't been decided.
For the bottom, I genuinely think it will be as you were. I think it's the 3 that came up that will go down. I think Forest will survive. I just don't. I think Luton have given it a great go. I just don't see them picking up enough points. I think they're gonna fall just short, which is a shame. But I think it will be as you were, and I think by that point, I think Everton will be fine. Possibly with some more points tomorrow. I think it'll be all right.
Quite interesting, because we've still got to play Luton, and we've also got to play Sheffield United as well. So I think that's going to have a big say in what happens to those teams. I think Sheffield United are down. I think Burnley are down as well. I don't think there's any way back for those. A lot depends on what happens, I think, with Forest appeal as well. Obviously, they're only a point ahead of Luton at the minute. So say Luton beat Everton, that opens up a whole different debate. My heart does say that I think the bottom three currently as it is are going to be the ones that go down from the Premier League. I just don't see where they're going to pick up the points for it.
I think Sheffield United are down. I think there's only like 3 points between the other three. I think Forest and Burnley. I think there's 3 points between them. So
yeah, there's
three. Burnley he might, with company there, he might be able to rile them up into a bit of an escape. You never know. Crazier things have happened, but yeah, I think it might just stay as it is. To be honest, I think Everton will be fine, and I think Forest may be still in danger, but who knows? I don't know what the psychological effect of all this VAR and stuff and all this from last weekend. You don't know what that's going to do to them going forward into their next game. How they're going to bounce back from that, or are they going to sort of go on a bit of a slide now for the last few games? You never know.
Yeah, I think a lot will ride if they get a point back from their appeal, which is what's expected to happen. So Forest, they're expected to have their...
I have a sneaking suspicion.
You reckon they'll get a point?
I reckon Luton might stay up.
Yeah.
I have a theory. If Forest don't get out of their own heads about this stuff, then it could be a big distraction for them. Yeah. And they're only 1 point above. There's not much in it, is there? So I have a little theory that Forest might end up going down.
Imagine if it goes down to the last game and it all hangs on a VAR decision that sends them down.
Oh, can you imagine? Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Well, it'll be
it's one of those things though that we could even finish the season, and if all the appeals aren't done, the season can be over, and they still don't know until all the appeals are done who's going to go down or not.
Well, this is another thing, isn't it?
Which is just insane.
I think a lot of that statement was lining up for the lawsuit if they do get relegated as well.
Yeah, because I mean, all they get if the VAR, the PGMOL can say yes, we got these decisions wrong. All they're getting is an apology. That doesn't do anyone any good. You say, well, it's cost us a point, 2 points, but an apology doesn't do anything at all. It doesn't help, does it?
It's also the thing is as well is the relegation into the Championship is the parachute payments that the clubs get. I mean, if you look at the top of the Championship this year, the clubs that are all up there are the ones that got relegated last year, and that's because they have very limited pressure on their financial fair play. They've got substantial budgets. They're getting a massive parachute payment by dropping down, and they just put all that money to good use to bounce straight back up. Yeah. And that's the kind of the yo-yo you get into, and they need to sort that consistency out. I mean, if you've seen tonight, obviously Leicester beat Southampton 5-0. I think that's probably going to beat them
result.
Up. Massive
result, isn't it?
I think that's probably sealed their promotion, to be fair.
Yeah, because they've now got 4 points on Leeds.
Yeah, 4 points on Leeds.
Still have a game in hand on Leeds. They're on 89 points, so it's close.
If Ipswich win their game in hand, though, they're only 2 points behind Leicester. So
yeah,
you never know.
Ipswich is the massive one because Ipswich, if you look at their squads, obviously we played Ipswich last year, and again we drew 4-4 with them at home, scored 2 goals in the 90th minute, which really annoyed Ed Sheeran because he was there that day. And then we lost 6-0 up there, and they played us off the park, absolutely battered us. And that same squad that they played in League One pretty much to a man. I think they've got 1 or 2 players that are extras. The rest is the same squad. So they're doing the bounce, the double bounce potentially. They're on a great run. I think it will be really close between them and Leeds for that second spot. I can tell you now, whichever one finishes third will not be going up. Because
I would love to see Ipswich do it over Leeds. I really would.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of people that would be with you on that one.
I don't think Leeds are particularly popular with anyone outside of Leeds, are they?
I mean,
I kind of want them to do it.
Like it's 5-0 is crazy.
And if you wanted my money on a team in the playoffs from that lot, I would say, unfortunately, Norwich. I think they're on again a great run. They've snuck in sort of late doors on that, and they're probably the form team of those 4 going into the playoffs. Assuming that you expect the drop from the team who's going to finish third. If it's Leeds finishing third, they're going to be devastated. We're not going up automatically. Can they pick themselves up? If it's Ipswich, then that would mean an Ipswich-Norwich playoff semi-final, which would be all kinds of great. Probably not for Norwich, though, because Norwich haven't beaten Ipswich for something like 15 years. So
the playoffs is a lottery, though, isn't it? And you could look at those 4 teams, whichever the third one is that drops down into the other 3. Any one of those 4 could go up in the playoffs. Like I say, it's a lottery. It's like a penalty shootout over a couple of games. It doesn't really matter where they finished. It all goes out the window. It's a one-off game.
Yeah, it's all about how you hit them. It's the form you have coming into them. If you're in good form, you've always got a chance. And I was speaking before we came on air tonight. I was talking to Shepp. If you want a little sneaky outsider, have a look at Doncaster in League 2. So Doncaster were in the they were just outside the relegation zone at the start of the turn of the year, and they've won 10 straight games, and they're now in the playoffs. They've just snuck in the playoffs, and they're in 7th. And it wouldn't surprise me if they stay in the playoffs and go all the way up through the playoffs. So it does come down to that.
They're
form at this time of the season. Always a good time of year, though. The thing you can always guarantee at the moment is there's good football pretty much every day at the moment for the next month. And then we've got the Euros as well, so even more fun to come.
And we've got a chance. Probably a better chance than we've had for a while. Don't jinx it.
No, I cannot wait. I can't wait for the toxicity.
If only we had a second good centre back to go with John Stones, and a better goalkeeper than Pickford, then we'd be sorted. That's our 2 problem position.
Yeah, you have to remember there's 2 different goalkeepers. There's Everton Pickford and there's England Pickford. They're 2 completely different animals.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, arguably, Jordan Pickford is the one that single-handedly kept us in the division for the last 2 seasons and probably this one as well. So I know he makes the occasional howler, but he literally, look at that save that he made at the weekend. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's definitely. He makes some errors, but for all of those errors, he makes so many good saves. And he's actually, is it now joint top for clean sheets that he's actually had in the Premier League season? Which is
he's not really got competition, is he, at the moment for the England job?
Certainly not from Ramsdale. No, I might.
No, well, exactly.
I might have mentioned Pickford a bit just because we had an Everton fan above me on the screen, but I think our centre back partner for John Stones is where we're going to struggle, because there's several who could be there or thereabouts. There's Conser and there's Lewis Dunk, but there's no one who really anywhere near the standard of Stones. I think that's what I want to
get in.
I think it will be Maguire. I think it'll be Stones and Maguire.
I know.
I can't see it change him.
Unpopular opinion: Lewis Dunk should not be anywhere near an England shirt.
That's popular with me.
That's just my opinion.
So you were talking about the academy as well. Esri Conser's Charlton Youth, Joe Gomez is Charlton Youth, Nick Pope's Charlton Youth. So if you look at the team of our academy players, if we put an academy 11 together now, we'd be comfortable Championship side.
Yeah.
But we can't let them all go.
You've only survived because you sold them all.
Well, this is true. Yeah.
It still counts, though. You can still say that Charlton won the World Cup, or in however many years' time, if they all come good. That's what West Ham fans have been dining out on for the last however many years. Yeah.
So shall we do it?
Right. It's time. It's time for the big quiz, which we say every time. Everyone does it. We all do it the same. And there's no winners or losers, but there is a leaderboard, and we still haven't produced a leaderboard. I genuinely tried to produce it for this episode, and then I got distracted doing something else. So
all you need to know is at the bottom.
What I will do is I will put the leaderboard together after we've done this, and I'll post it on the Facebook page so we can see where everyone's at. But I think the highest score is 7 for memory. So it's fine. There's no pressure. It's all good. Does anybody want to volunteer to go first, or are we not particularly fussed? It's not like penalty shootouts. There's no advantage.
I don't mind.
Right,
Go on, Jon.
you're going first. So you basically got 90 seconds to answer as many questions on Charlton Football Club as you can. Now, these are questions that have not been...
the amount of time.
90 seconds, Tris.
90 seconds. See, there's 90, not 60. Just so we're aware.
Potentially, which we haven't fessed up to officially yet, and we'll just keep that one on the down low, but might have produced a little bit of a constitutional crisis with the leaderboard. But anyway, that's not a problem. So 90 seconds, many questions as you can. So whenever you're ready, Tris.
Okay, 90 seconds is starting now.
Okay, question number 1. This player is often erroneously called a one-club man, but he played 95 times for Charlton before moving to West Ham United in 1967. Who is he?
Way before my time.
You can pass if you want.
Skip that one. Pass that one, yeah.
Okay, question 2. Against which club did Sam Bartram make his 500th appearance for Charlton?
I will guess Millwall.
That's incorrect. Question 3. Charlton Athletic were formed in 1905 and were based at Seaman's Meadow. What was their first home ground more commonly known as?
No idea. Going well.
Okay. Question 4. Which stadium did Charlton Athletic return to in 1992 after years of financial struggle and played home matches in it in their first 6 seasons in the Premiership?
That would be the Valley.
Correct. Question 5. In what year were the club formed?
1905.
Very good. I've already given that answer. Question 6. Which player won 2 England caps whilst a Charlton player, but went on to make more than 350 appearances for Wolverhampton Wanderers, including domestic and European Cup finals, competition finals?
Be an early one. No, I'm going to skip that one.
Okay, question 7. Right, he gets this question because the rule is we started, so we finish.
That was the last one, to be fair.
They were brutal, by the way. Dear God. Good research. I'll give you that.
So you got the last question, question 7. When Charlton returned to the First Division in 1986 after an absence of 29 years, who were their first league opponents at Selhurst Park?
The fact it was at Selhurst Park just kills me every time. West Ham.
That's incorrect. It was Sheffield Wednesday. So you got 2. That's all right.
That's not bad. I'll take that.
But I was clinging on to hope for a little while there that you were going to match my achievement.
Get the egg.
Getting 0.
So there were some brutal questions. Fair play.
They are. Do you know what? It is hard. It's easy when I'm reading these because I've got the answers in front of me. I'm like, oh, these are not too bad. But having been in the hot seat, it's a completely different experience.
Absolutely.
So the ones you didn't get, the player that won 2 England caps whilst a Charlton player went to make more than 350 appearances for Wolves, including domestic and European competition finals, was Mike Bailey. You got the year being formed. You got Valley, correct. The first ground was more commonly known as Brickfield. Don't know if that means anything.
No. I did want to kind of pitch in there with Seaman Meadow as like Spunkfield.
Yeah, Spunkfield.
yeah, it did have that. Against which club did Sam Bartram make his 500th appearance for Charlton? That was Portsmouth. Again, if you're not up on your 50s Charlton knowledge, then you're going to struggle with that.
Yeah.
And then question 1, the one club man who played 95 times for Charlton before moving to West Ham United in 1967 was Billy Bonds. Again.
Yeah, forgot he was with us.
So, so 2. That's a respectable score. It's quite a difficult quiz. So well done, Jon.
It's not a 0, so I'll take that.
Right. it's over to Pete. Wow. Okay, let's just get.
I'm a bit worried now after seeing those tough questions on Charlton now.
It's fine. It's fine.
These are going to be very targeted questions, aren't they, from an Arsenal fan?
Yeah, these are going to be really tough now.
There won't be many on trophies, put it that way, Pete. You'll be all right there.
Ooh. Well, like I said, just be glad it's not me setting the questions, because it was my fault that Shepp has 0.
Is it going to be who's the first to win the League and FA Cup double?
I'm not going to give away any of the questions, but there may be some questions about trophies in there, which is probably going to be easy. Anyway, right. Are you ready, Tris?
Easy after listening to Jon's questions.
Okay. Yep.
Come on then.
Right, Pete, are you ready?
Time starts.
Ready as I'll ever be.
Time starts now.
Lovely. Question number 1. In 1963, Tottenham Hotspur became the first British team to win a European trophy. Which one was it?
UEFA Cup.
We'll come back to that. I'm not sure if that's right or wrong. Number 2. In which year were the club formed?
1882.
Very good. Question 3. Spurs legends Chris Waddle and Glenn Hoddle assaulted charts in the 1980s. What was the hit single?
Diamond Lights.
Very good. It's question 4. Name the Spurs player who scored in the World Cup final in 1966.
Martin Peters.
Very good. Question 5. Who was the manager of Spurs when they lifted the FA Cup in 1991?
I'll tell Terry Venables, the legend.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Question 6. Although qualifying for the UEFA Cup competition 4 times between 1986 and 1991, the club never played in the competition on the European continent. Why not?
It's when the English clubs were banned from Europe.
Yep, that's correct. Question 7. Who was the club's first manager in their history?
Oh, gee, no idea. Pass.
Which former Stoke City striker starred for Spurs in the early 1980s and in the early 2000s had been seen presenting the BBC's coverage of the African Cup of Nations?
Can you say that again? I missed after you broke up a bit.
So,
what was that?
Which former Stoke City striker starred for Spurs in the early 1980s and in the early 2000s had been seen presenting the BBC's coverage of the African Cup of Nations?
No idea. Pass. I can't remember. I can't think of his name.
Well, you got 5. That's a respectable 5. I do feel like those were easier questions than Johnson's. This is not a standardised process. You get what you're given.
I was going to say I know a few of them myself. So
yeah. So the former Stoke City striker who also played for Spurs in the 80s and covered the African Cup of Nations for the BBC was Garth Crooks.
Of course it was.
I
didn't know he played for Stoke.
No, neither did I. The club's first manager in their history was Frank Brettel. Although you've got that one right. Obviously, that was the Heysel disaster that banned teams from English teams from Europe.
Liverpool fans, bastards.
Martin Peters, you got right. You got Diamond Lights right, which is very impressive. I feel like
I've met Hoddle and Waddle. We have legend nights down here with our supporters group every 6-12 months, and we've had them both down.
I feel like I feel like the era of football players assaulting the charts is no longer a thing, is it? Now it's round table.
I don't know. Amadou Onana's having a damn good go. The Everton player. He's actually releasing an album and everything.
Has he really?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So good imagine Martin Odegaard and Declan Rice getting a chance now.
The only debatable one. Yeah, so you said the UEFA Cup. It wasn't the UEFA Cup in 1963, I don't think. It's the European Cup Winners' Cup. Is it? Was that so? The Cup Winners' Cup.
They're different things.
And I get really, I think they're different, aren't they? So I'm not giving you that one, but yeah, it was a good guess. So yeah, well done. Right. Well, I think that brings us to the end, which is great. Thanks. It's been a big good fun recording this. So thanks very much for your time, gents. I think the only thing that's left for me to say is obviously for those who aren't aware, Jon and Pete are both running for national vice president this year. So obviously we've learned, we've heard a bit from them today. You've got individual videos, haven't you, which people can find on? Is it on the Facebook page?
I think there's links to them, but they're on YouTube, and there's also a YouTube upload of the live question time that we did with Steve Eccles, both of us. It's about an hour long. That's probably the best thing to watch.
Cool. Okay. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that, go away and have a good listen to that. And when is the deadline for voting? Is it the day before the national AGM?
11th of May, midday. So it's during the national AGM, so you can vote up to midday on the AGM. So we'll give a speech at the AGM, and then you've got up till 12 o'clock on the day of the AGM to vote.
But the voting's already open. It's been open since
the
live Q&A.
So if you haven't listened to these videos, have a listen and badger your chairman to have a chat with the table and submit a vote, because we need as many votes as possible. And
it'll be the chairman
do that for the Allen chair. Last year,
it'll be the chairman last year, 23-24.
Yeah,
so he goes to the outgoing chairman for you guys. If you're wondering who gets the email with the online vote, it goes to the outgoing chairman.
Brilliant. Okay. Right. Well, great. Well, as I say, thanks very much for joining us this evening, gents. And Tris, thank you very much for your time and for leading, for introducing this one. And we'll, as always, we'll be back to do another one next month. Don't know who will be on it, but we're getting closer and closer to the end of the season, and the Euros obviously are coming. So we've got some plans to do a load of podcasts during the Euros. That should get really, really interesting. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening. And if you haven't given us a like on Facebook already, smash a like and follow us on Podbean. But yeah, thanks very much everyone, and we'll see you next month.
Cheers, lads. Thanks for having us.
See you next time.
Cheers, gents. Thank you.